Welcoming our next speaker on board, ladies and gentlemen, Amjad Hilal, teacher educator at Queen Rania's Teachers Academy, a module led for practical module, facilitating students' practical work in partnering schools and e-learning manager, having 25 years of experience in one of Jordan's high-level international school, experience ranging from teaching post, leadership and management post, holder of master's degree in geochemistry, geochemical engineering. Let's go ahead and welcome her on board.
Good afternoon here from Jordan. Today we're going to talk about competencies of a modern teacher. And I think this particular topic touches the needs of so many teachers all around the world, simply after having to go online and having to work with digital technology with our students due to closures. My name is Amjad Hilal. I am the e-learning manager at Queen Rania Teacher Academy, and I'm also a teacher educator here at this academy that is concerned with the students. This is my email if you would like to contact me for any support or any questions. So now we're going to think about, before we talk about the outcomes, we need to start thinking. What competencies, when we talk about digital competencies, do I have to be a digitally competent teacher? Do I have to know everything about ICT? These questions, I would like you please to bear them in mind before we move into the presentation. And hopefully throughout this presentation, I will be able to answer these two queries that I just posted. In today's session, we will be able to identify what do we mean by competencies a digital teacher needs. And we say digital teacher, we're talking about a modern teacher, or as now known as modernization of teaching. Then we need to talk about to recognize the most common digital framework teachers use. We know that in normal face-to-face teaching, we have certain framework, a way to plan our lessons. Is there a different method we use to plan our engaging online content? We will explore some samples, how to use these frameworks in our daily lesson planning. First of all, I would like you to think of these questions. What are competencies of a modernized teacher? You can do two things right with me. If you're logging in through your mobiles, you can simply scan here the code. If not, please, I will copy. Now, I will put for you the Padlet. If please, the support team can copy the Padlet link into the chat, so you can just all reply to it. We have 3 minutes, please, to add something. We have here, you need to tell me, what do you think are the competencies of a modernized teacher? So we should be in here and we'll be able to just simply work on this with the attendees. Can you please add your replies? I will put you the link again into the chat. Just please click on the link and that will take you here. Okay. This is the QR code and you can scan it to go into the Padlet. So your question is, can we come up with the competencies of a modernized teacher? In order to use the Padlet, just please click on the plus sign here, and then you start writing your replies. So if you are a modern teacher, if you think that you know what a modern teacher should have, write it down. What do you know about competencies of a modern teacher? Or you need to add to it. Fine. Now, when we think about teacher obligations, that means your role as a teacher. What do you do as a teacher? You make sure that you encourage something called collaborative learning. That means how much you can engage your students together in an interesting way, where they can actually work together and benefit from each other. You as a teacher has an obligation to use all available technology. May I please add here that when we talk about available technology, we're really talking about simple things. It doesn't have to be something very complicated, like complicated laptops or gadgets, whatever. Any technology, a pen, a pencil is a technology. A smart phone is a technology. A whiteboard is a technology. But when we talk about digitized teacher, you need to use, for example, gadgets and laptops. Also, the obligations of a teacher is to incorporate the old and the new. What does it mean, the old and the new? Before COVID, I'm not going to go all the way back, but before COVID, most teachers all around the world depended mostly on their presence inside the classroom, standing in front of the students and simply giving them a lesson. Due to closures, and I think let's look at the pandemic from a positive point of view, we thought of things we never thought that we will be doing. We were integrating and engaging with our students via a certain screen because we were unable, for example, to go to schools and see them directly. Due to this, this is the old method of me, teacher, being the center of my classroom. But now, moving to the new style of teaching, we're talking about having to have my students as the center of the learning process. Putting all of these four, the use of available technology, encouragement of collaborative learning, laying foundation for lifelong learner. We need to know that the students nowadays, we need to give them foundations, how to keep learning in the future. It's not only finishing their high school and then the tertiary education. What comes after? You don't stop at a degree. You should always be a lifelong learner. And then how we integrate the past and the present, putting these four together makes you a modernized, digitally competent teacher. When we talk about digital competency, what do we mean? Digital competencies, as the diagram that you have it over here, okay, it shows you exactly, like, I need my spotlight. Look at it right now. We have it, information. A digitally competent teacher should have good technical information, should have good content information. A digital competency of communication. Can you communicate with your students in a proper manner, even through a screen? You should be able to create your content. And when we talk about this content, we're talking about the digital content. And over here, I need to stop a bit and talk about a digital content is not just talking and saying things. Knowledge is found online. You as a teacher, you need to guide your students how to look for the information and how to get the knowledge from that. You are not giving knowledge, you are guiding them to that information. Safety. We have so many problems for online learning. One of them is keeping the safety of your students, the privacy, how they can easily be hacked by sharing their information. You should be able to model this to your students. You're a problem solver. For example, while teaching online, something happens. For example, a link doesn't happen. What could you do on the spot? You should be proactive, spontaneous, and able to connect with their students. That tells us a digitally competent teacher is someone that doesn't only involve how to use the device, but it's actually knowing it and implementing it, which this tells you that you have to connect all of your information and your ICT skills put together in one place. There's something called sensible and healthy use of ICT. You should be able to protect your data. That's called data literacy, and that comes later on with future framework. Okay. Now, what frameworks can we use as teachers? May I please let you go back and remember the outcomes? The outcomes were you need to know the competencies of a digital teacher. We need to learn about the frameworks we use in being a modernized teacher, and we will provide you with examples on using these frameworks. We have commonly and by literature and three main conceptual frameworks. And I need to emphasize on the word conceptual because the concepts are being presented to the students through three main frameworks. These three main frameworks are Triple E's, Teapot, and Summer. I think many of you are very well acquainted to Teapot because we've been using it for such a very long time, even way before we had to move online. Triple E's is the most recent. Some of you may have used it when they used to teach, for example, remotely for certain reasons. All of these three frameworks depend on two stages. They come on two stages or two phases: the enhancement phase and the transformational phase. When we say enhancement, it means we build on the past. This is the old, which is the enhancement. This is the old. Transformation is the new. And if you remember, when we talked about the obligations of the teacher, we said they connect the old, which is enhancement, with the new to become a modernized teacher. The first framework we will be talking about is the 3 E's. May I please just draw your attention to the 3 E's? Let me go back to my spotlight and talk about it this way. First step is called engagement. How can I engage my students? I give them timely tasks. I allow them to co-use, for example, websites, links I provide them with, and I set learning goals. If you want your students to be engaged with you, let them be engaged in knowing the outcomes. There are two ways to do it. Either you provide the outcomes to your students, or you give them a task and you ask them, what do you expect to learn in this lesson? When you're done with your engagement part, usually we move into something called enhancement, which means what would you add to the student's knowledge? Minor addition. How would you do that? By fragmenting the information. How would you fragment it? By scaffolding. You scaffold your questions. Don't give the information directly. Do some kind of scaffolding. support students who need the support. All of these would lead into differentiation. You have so many different abilities in your classroom. How would you cater for these abilities? By different methodologies of differentiation. What's now is back to norm, becoming the norm in online learning is the personalization. May I please draw your attention to something? Personalization is what you do as a teacher. You need to consider that every student in your classroom is unique. You talk to them as if they are one person. Each person, you use the language with that person as if he's the only student in your classroom. What would that lead to? That would definitely lead to something that we call autonomy. Okay? When you personalize your students' learning, you are actually producing autonomous learners. Now, the last step is extension. You engage them, they know your outcomes, you started to scaffold the information step by step. What would you do right now? You expand their knowledge, you extend their understanding by linking them to what you need them to learn, the extra knowledge, the new things. But please remember one thing, we always try to connect their prior knowledge and the new knowledge to real life context. And that's called soft skills. Example, let's take an example how we can actually use triple E's. I chose a biology question or a biology lesson, and I divided them into 3 parts: the engagement, enhancement, and extension. Now, if we try to look over here, if you please just allow me to clear this. Thank you. Okay. I will show you that this is a biology lesson. In the engagement part, I would ask my students a question. Do you expect COVID-19 to end soon? I would ask my students, go to your breakout rooms and discuss the question. This is called engagement. I'm engaging my students in this question. They will be discussing with each other. I am encouraging peer learning. Once they're done with the discussion, I will ask them a big question, engaging them in the outcomes. What do you think we will learn today? So this is the first part of the triple E. In the enhancement stage, I will say, following on the discussions that we just had as groups, let's analyze your replies. From your replies, I found out that you will all believe that COVID-19 is a virus. Now, what is the second phase in enhancement? I will ask a question to expand their knowledge. I would say, do you know the life cycle of a virus? How do viruses reproduce? And therefore, I'm giving them questions to allow them understand what's coming next. Then I will say, well, now let's do an activity to order the virus behavior. So now another phase of letting them enhance their understanding. They will be given, for example, a drag and drop activity, and they will be asked to show how the life cycle of a virus behaves. Now, the extension part. I'm going to a little bit higher up in Bloom's taxonomy to build understanding and to build application. Question: if we know about the behavior of viruses, can we stop it? This is a question that needs deeper thinking, and we're digging deeper in the context that we're teaching or in the concept that we're teaching. Do you see how the concept is actually being built up? This is why it's called a conceptual framework. Now, if you were, after I finish this, I will tell them, if you were a biomedical engineer, and now my students say, Miss, what is a biomedical engineer? your question, your reply would be, you're already online. Could you please quickly, you have 1 minute to look up what a biomedical engineer stands for, and then we continue. Do you think the genetic code can be mutated? And this is how I will engage my students and call it a wrap-up, an ending for my lesson. This is an example of a lesson plan on Triple E. The second conceptual framework I think we're all acquainted with is called Teapot, which is technological, pedagogical, content, knowledge. Each term denotes something. Technological means I integrate technology. Pedagogy is the how am I teaching the content? Content, what am I teaching? What concept am I just simply sending to my students? What should they know? And therefore, we now have this knowledge. Whenever I integrate the what, the how, and the methodology, I really become a modernized teacher. As you can see here, this is called the Teapot. I can have technology with content, but no pedagogy. So I would just show, for example, I would just simply show a video. I am integrating technology. I might have a good pedagogy and good technology knowledge, but no content. That would not make me a good teacher. But integrating all these together will make you a really good, competent digital teacher. You want to know more about the Teapot? Let's take a look at this right now. We will go to Edpuzzle. And I hope right now you will be able to hear the video and how it goes.
So what is TPAC? TPAC stands for Technological, Pedagogical, and Content Knowledge, and it is composed of 3 areas of knowledge: technological knowledge, pedagogical knowledge, and content knowledge. Content knowledge is the what. This is the actual subject matter that is to be learned or to be taught. For example, science, math, or history.
Now here, usually, this is what I'm doing with you right now. I'm asking you to answer a question. This is what you do with
Pedagogical knowledge is the how. It's the best practices of teaching and learning. Maybe direct instruction, inquiry-based learning, collaborative group work, etc.
So pedagogical content, pedagogical knowledge is the how part. That how am I actually going to send the message to my students?
And finally, there's technological knowledge. This is understanding about the technologies that exist. And it's important to note that most technologies have not been created for educational purposes, but rather teachers must be able to repurpose this technology for their own use. This
is a very important fact. It's not about how I use technology, that, okay, I'm going to show off and and add technology to my lessons. Is there a rationale for using this particular technology application or tool here? Does it add up to the knowledge of my students? If it has no added value, don't use it.
These areas of knowledge often overlap. When the content knowledge and the pedagogical knowledge overlap, we get the pedagogical content knowledge, or PCK. PC knowledge is understanding the best way to present the subject matter to make it understandable to others. When content knowledge and technological knowledge overlap, we get the technological content knowledge, or TCK. This TC knowledge is understanding how technology can change the subject matter. Finally, when pedagogical knowledge and technological knowledge overlap, we get the technological pedagogical knowledge, or TPK. This TP knowledge is understanding what technologies exist and how using these technologies might change the way that we teach. The goal of good teaching, then, is to find the intersection of these 3 different types of knowledge. This intersection is what we refer to as TPAC, Technological, Pedagogical, Content Knowledge.
So this is actually what you really need to know about.
Want to learn more about TPAC? Please visit.
Okay, so if we go back And this is what we understand about TPAC, and we've been using it for ages. I'm sure that most of you know about it. Now, the third conceptual framework, some of you might tell me, but why did you flip it? I'm going to explain why they flip it. It usually starts from the S, A, M, R, but I started with the foundation. S at the bottom, A, M, and R. Why? Because I should start with the old and then build the new. The old is at the bottom, which is enhancement. I am enhancing the old methodology and adding a little bit of the new one. When we say summer, we start with substitution. That means I substitute parts of my lessons without really going deeper into the application itself. Instead of giving a paper picture, I can just show it on the screen. So I didn't make a great change. Second step, instead of giving a paper picture, I have used the picture on the screen and added a question. Example, what I've done with you in TPAC. I could have showed you the video completely, but that was showing the video is substitution. Adding the stops and the questions on the video is called augmentation. This is the part of the enhancement. Moving up is a modification. How can I make the technology gradually take over what the tasks are being done or how the tasks are being done? This is called the part of the transformation. I'm transforming my classroom from a face-to-face classroom into a digitally competent classroom. Finally, the redefinition. I am redefining my lesson with a digital language. Example, let's see. I have used a geography lesson. Students need to locate a country, its boundaries, and complete labeling cities. This is geography. Usually, what do? We give the atlas or we give a map to the students. We ask them, look at the map, pick the country we're talking about. Fine. Don't give them the map. What would you go? Go to Google Earth. Locate the area. Second part of the enhancement is augmentation. Now, going back to Google Earth, there's an app or a tool called Ruler. I need you to use the ruler to find the distance between two places in that country. Could be one of the cities, okay, and the capital city, just to use a tool. Now I'm done with the enhancement. For modification, now I would say, okay, we're still in Google Earth. Now you use a tool called Google Earth Layers to locate the nearest cities, for example, to the capital. This is the capital, for example, Jordan. The capital is Amman. Can you please use Google Earth Layers and locate the closest cities next to the capital city? Finally, going higher up in the thinking order skills, I'm going to use narrator on Google. Narrator is a place where you just simply, as if you're recording your voice with also video, to prepare a story about this country. Or imagine you're a tourist guide and you're preparing a virtual visit to Jordan. Talk about Jordan, neighboring countries, capital city, the distances between the capital city and the neighboring cities, all of this only using one application, Google Earth. So what did we do? We substituted this whole activity on paper with what? We used it using an application online. All right. Reply to this question with one statement. Could you go to this link, if you can copy this link, and answer the question, what are the requirements to integrate these frameworks? If you are unable or unfamiliar with Mentimeter, you can add your replies to the chat that you have over here. What do you think are the requirements to integrate, to add these frameworks to your work? Can you please reply to this? All that you have to do is you go to Mentimeter and then you will actually access it directly. I don't know if the support could copy this to the chat and can have them working on them, please. I can take it from somewhere else. It's okay. Just click and you can go directly to the Mentimeter. You will see it here. Your replies will come here. Can you please start? What should a teacher do or have to be able to use the discussed frameworks, the 3 frameworks? All that you have to do is to go to www.menti.com and this is the code. Or, thank you, support. What else can we have here? Just one word. All that you have to do is just one word. There are 2 ways to access the Mentimeter. Either you click on the link that I left for you on the chat, or you can go to the menti.com and use this code. Creativity, interesting. So the teacher needs to be supportive, needs to be creative. What else can a teacher do to use these frameworks? Again, have you noticed something? The word support is becoming bigger. This means more and more people are replying to the same word. We have 4 people that are replying right now. Okay. Now let's go back to our presentation because almost our time is up. Yes. Educators need to be digitally literate in order to become digitally competent. What does it mean to be digitally literate? To be able to use tools and applications online and to handle any disruptions that could happen in their internet or not knowing how to proceed with their IT skills. But let's ask ourselves a question. Okay, if technology can solve all the problems, am I still needed as a teacher in the future? Could technology replace me? Could technology become the teacher? Of course not. Technology is certainly changing the way we teach. It will never replace me as a teacher inside the classroom. Remember one thing, the major asset in any educational aspect is you being a teacher. High quality teachers create classroom culture that motivates the students and leads them on the path to success. Finally, remember one thing. When you are a professionally competent teacher using good pedagogies, you are actually creating competent learners who would finally lead to high rate of employability. And I'm going to leave you with a quote. Education is our passport to the future for tomorrow, belongs to the people who prepare it for today. Thank you for joining me in this presentation. These are my references, and I don't know if you have any questions. Thank you very much. We have questions, Melissa. Okay, great. Thank you for attending and for being with me in this presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Amjad, Abu Hilal. Hope you guys are doing great. Now we're going to have questions asked right here. If not, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and mail it to you so that you can go ahead and reply to our delegates.
Okay.
We have questions. We will send it by email and you can reply to them.
Okay, great.
Yes. Thank you so much for such an interactive session. Hope you have a great day ahead.
Thank you very much for your support. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.